Hello, council members and residents. I'm pleased to present to you the State of the City overview for the City of Sequim in the following slides and presentation. Today's overview will include the following, and we'll just pretty much follow this agenda itinerary. A quick organizational overview of the leadership of the city, the different swim lanes and responsibilities by city council and the three, I guess, forms of government from your 8th grade civic class. Number 2 is the city council priorities. We'll talk briefly about some municipal trends, but most of our time will be spent on number 4 here on the 23 and 24 city operational goals. We'll conclude with a brief summary of by the numbers, just some data that we track and we'll share and then be available for questions and answers afterwards. As mentioned, these are the 3 branches of government, of course. I'm going to be talking mostly about the executive or administrative branch. To the right of that box and circle is the legislative or city council. The legislators, of course, are the policymakers, they're elected officials, and as they determine policy, then it's the executive or administrative branch that's involved in operationalizing and implementing those policies. In the city of Sequim, we really outsource all of our judicial or our court, the jail, and all of our judicial responsibilities as a city. So here we have our current city council. As of, I believe, January, some of these are new members. But we also had a new mayor elected, Brandon Janice, and a new deputy mayor here, Rachel Anderson. Dan Butler was recently appointed or elected, not appointed, elected as a city council member, as was Harmony Redder. And then Nicole Hartman was recently appointed with the open position created by Tom Farrell resigning from the council. Following the recent sitting of the new city council, they determined to have a retreat, and that was facilitated by a professional mentor that went through a SWOT analysis to determine some of the priorities. And these are the 6 areas or priorities determined by the new city council. I won't read them to you, but mostly to catch infrastructure up with growth, of course, affordable housing, to continue to work with the comp plan, etc. So some really strong, important priorities that are determined by the council. After those 6 priorities were determined, and those priorities are here in kind of bold black font, the facilitator then asked the council, what do you believe are the next steps relating to that priority? And so the council then came up with the red font items as next steps specific to that individual priority. And so this is an example of the first 2 priorities and the next steps that were determined by the council relative to that priority. Following the council's retreat, then the senior management team had its own retreat, because that's our job, is to look at the council's priorities and elected policies, and then to operationalize those. So the senior management team held a half-day retreat to put a work plan together around the council's priorities. And so what you see here on the right 2 columns are the work plan. We divided them by kind of proposed city council work plans. This was determined by the senior management team, not by the council. And then, but things that you'll see in green here, things that we felt like the city council could take the lead on, but we would facilitate or assist with. The blue, the far right column here, proposed city staff work plan, are items that we felt like we could take kind of point or lead on to help accomplish and to achieve the city council's priorities. So the branch of government that I, as a city manager, am over, you'll see this is my box, the city manager. Here sits the 7 city council members that are my bosses, and I have the pleasure of working with this senior management team here below me. We do currently have an open position for the Community and Economic Development Director and that whole department. But you can see their names and the departments there that operations is led by in the city of Sequim. Per the agenda that we started with a couple slides ago, I wanted to touch briefly on what I call municipal trends. Each year, I try to constantly stay abreast of where is the city or where are trends going, whether no matter what kind of trends, political trends, healthcare trends, but in this case, municipal trends. Knowing that there's a lot of really bright folks that are consultants and have big views of the country and the world, and tend to track and identify and track these trends. And of all of my Google searches and investigation and research, I kind of boiled a lot of the trends that I found down to these 5 areas. I'm only going to touch on them very briefly, but you'll see how I try to create city operational goals around the upcoming or the current or upcoming trends. It just makes sense to to align those. And it was kind of funny as I saw these trends and identified them on the internet and whatnot, that they really were consistent with things that we were working on within the city. So as you can see, number 1 is technology and innovation growth, of course, development and urban growth. COVID really had a spike in the leisure and outdoor recreation. So growth in all those areas, the residents are looking for all those things to increase. Of course, municipal financing and economic stability is huge, and with a lot of concern about recession and the stability of kind of global economies. And then last is infrastructure and sustainability needs. But we'll break those down now individually very quickly. Okay, so per the agenda on the previous slide, we'll just walk quickly through those 5 municipal trends. The first one, of course, being technology and innovation growth. I've highlighted in red the key phrases or words so that you can quickly identify the key points of each of these trends. Under technology innovation comes smart cities. Artificial intelligence is being rapidly introduced into the workplace, including in municipalities and each of the departments with specialty AI functions and softwares. The importance of innovative other additional technologies, making sure your buildings are sustainable and resilient. And then, of course, the challenge with a limited IT pool of talent to manage all of the technology that's coming. The second municipal trend has to do with development and urban growth. Due to COVID and the massive migration, I guess, of workers out of large cities and back to where they came from, their various homes and states that were more rural, there was a great reset. Of course, the housing, that's what's created much of the housing shortage and the escalating costs. With private equity also participating in that and buying up a lot of real estate for Airbnbs and other startup business ventures. But there's also a high interest in mixed use facilities, both office, retail, housing typically is usually retail on the bottom, commercial above that, and then housing above that. But a real emphasis on livable, walkable communities to get away from the urban sprawl. And then, of course, the need for continued physical shopping districts to counter the e-commerce that's taking over. The third municipal trend, of course, is for increased need for outdoors, more green space, more outdoor recreation, parks, trails. We're seeing that with the hybrid work models that many employers are still allowing, that as people work from home, they want to be able to participate in the community through walking and being outside with dog parks and whatnot. And the continuation, they're asking for a continuation of services from municipalities for everything from young families and splash pads and playground equipment to pickleball courts and whatnot for and other outdoor activities for the active senior population. The fourth municipal trend has to do with municipal finance and economic stability. So things like there's predictions that the tax revenues will maintain solid basis and slight growth. They are the kind of consultants or subject matter experts are advising cautious budgeting to mitigate any potential financial instability. Grant support will continue to be very important to local governments from the federal and state levels, and to be cautious in planning our financial budgeting and planning due to inflation and recessionary risks that are lurking. And lastly, you'll see the fifth municipal trend has to do with infrastructure and sustainability. Obviously, the need for continued economic development for tax bases and revenues, and to create a thriving community. Also focusing on replacing outdated infrastructure, kind of water and sewer lines, to also not only replace them, but also lay new infrastructure for development. And then to concentrate on sustainability planning for public transportation, EV stations, renewable energy, to concentrate on efficient buildings, et cetera, et cetera. So with those 5 trends that are being published kind of nationally, it's interesting to overlay those on top of the city of Sequim or my operational goals for the last 2 years. These are the 5 areas that I really felt are important for the city of Sequim to focus on. Of course, digital transformation, moving from manual systems and archaic, really early day, or at this point very old technology that's inefficient and really non-productive. Number 2 is to continue to focus on a capital improvement program. I'll talk a lot about that. I'm going to break each one of these down in the following slides. Number 3, to listen and respond to our customers. And of course, I believe that our customers are the employees, co-workers, the team members that work in the city of Sequim. As the second customer, I would say, is our residents. And then I believe a third customer would be our businesses within the city. So we'll talk about all 3 of those when we get to number 3 and the slides related to that. And then finally, the importance of stabilizing the workforce, which we've been working hard on for the last 2 years, and then continued process improvement initiatives. So let's step back and look at each of these operational goals one by one and do a little more in-depth deep dive into each of them with some following slides. The first one then being digital transformation. So everybody's aware of this amazing digital transformation that's occurring, and some people are calling it a technological revolution. It is bigger than even the Industrial Revolution in the scale and the scope and the complexity. This has to do with artificial intelligence and all of the related technologies that are coming with that, and how fast they're coming, how they're being introduced into robots, into drones, into all softwares for any kind of specialization or industry, right? From medicine to engineering to all forms of science science and even art. Anyway, the second quote here has to do with the way that the public sector is starting to be pushed and more closely aligned with the private sector, which it should be. I guess I've never really fully understood why the public sector would lag behind the private, but most of us get used to a certain level of technology and performance from private industries, companies like Amazon, where you can order an item on your phone in the morning and often have it delivered by the afternoon. And so the question that many people are asked is, if I can get that kind of service and performance from a private company, why should I have to expect less from a public company or a public sector like my city? So technology really is being overlaid and integrated into the municipalities and the public sector as well. These are just a few of the software platforms that we are implementing here in the city of Sequim. We've gone all in with an enterprise-wide Tyler. That's a vendor name. It's a software that will update our finance department, our planning and permitting department, our HR department. Amazing efficiencies and productivity advances and benefits by moving to this new state-of-the-art platform. Cardiograph is another really important platform that we have introduced. It really addresses our asset management, which means that now we will start keeping track of, or we have started keeping track of, all of our infrastructure, our fleet. We will now know where our pipes are located underground. We'll know where the valves are. None of that was ever recorded, often by people's memories, and so now it's all going to be in a software that can be read by, and that software can be loaded on iPhones or cell phones, on tablets, on laptops, so that as there's a problem, we can have a water crew drive out to where there might be a broken water main, and they will know exactly where that pipe is and where the valves are relative to that. We also have recently completed a complete website redesign with Civic Plus. We paid a little bit of extra money to make sure we bought some software that would keep the site ADA compliant. It looks for any broken links. It makes sure that people that are colorblind it picks the right colors and whatnot. It picks the right wording for understanding and all that. So very happy with our recent redesign of our website. We've recently implemented some software that is useful in our city council meetings, as well as planning commission and other commissions and boards. It brings all kinds of functionality that has not been previously available, so that you can click on the links in the agendas, that there's a video recording that's time stamped, and so you can click on any agenda item and go to the audio or go to the video or go to the notes section of the meeting. We've recently introduced body cams in the police department and all of the complexities of that, but that's been a great addition to our police department. We have purchased Laserfish for it has a significant reach relative to its functionality. We're primarily using it at this point just for public records as a portal so that people can do a search on all city documents based on whatever they're looking for, and that's brought a lot of functionality and immediate response to public record requests. And then, of course, we're introducing artificial intelligence across our different departments in our communication and marketing. They're using it for content creation in our legal department for reviewing case law and quickly identifying like cases to contemplate, etc. Our planning and community development department will be overlaying some artificial intelligence on digital plans that are submitted to the city so that they can be read by AI and ensure that without any, I mean, there'll be human overread, but the initial screening of those digital plans will be done by AI that checks those plans relative to the city's building codes and statutes and setbacks and whatnot. So of course the purpose for all of those softwares and a lot of the hardware that we needed to load the software on is for the functional efficiencies that a digital transformation brings. In our finance department, just in the HR and the payroll section, we have been able to turn a process that normally has historically taken 3 days to do, that it now takes 3 hours. There's processes that used to be 7 steps and now are 2. My director in finance is talking about things that took days to be able to pull reports that now take just minutes. So tons of functional efficiencies with the tighter software in our finance department. We're able to, number 3 here, we recently bought a device that has radar that actually penetrates into the ground where we can, because we have that cardiograph software, where we keep track of all of our infrastructure, but a lot of our infrastructure, especially underground, we don't know exactly where it is. And so now with this new device, we can take down a street and it can identify where our pipes are, and then it GPSs that up and over and into our GIS system that then transfers it into cardiograph. So bringing all kinds of efficiencies to the city and the staff. We've recently introduced traffic signal software we only have 8 lights in the city, traffic signal lights, but now we have functionality that can not only see a traffic coming toward an intersection, and as it responds to that traffic, it also synchronizes or coordinates with the next traffic signal on that road to allow the traffic to go through all the way through town. So that's still being implemented and developed, but it's already made a significant improvement in the time of. It looks like my slide jumped forward, so I'll just keep moving forward. You probably read some of the other bullet points on the last slide. So let's jump into the second operational goal that we're talking about here for 2023 and 24, and that is our capital improvement program. I have a lot to share with you regarding that. But before I do, a capital improvement plan or program is a capital intense, meaning financially expensive plan, because it's really addressing all of the capital needs of infrastructure in a city. So before I talk about the outlay of those expenses, I thought I would take a moment and talk about how healthy our city finances are. Many of you know that the city of Sequim is year over year has always balanced its budget. We're financially strong. We have fully funded at or above the policy requirements for fund balances. We have 30 years of clean financial audits by the state auditor's office. We've paid down early debts that on bonds that we have taken out. Matter of fact, this last year it shows here that we paid down 1.1 million, saving $700,000 over the life of the bond. Number 5 here also addresses that we have funded $5 million in capital improvement projects just in 2023. Because of COVID, we couldn't a lot of jobs out in the community were put on hold. And so there's a huge need to try to catch up and address city needs. So in 2023, that was probably the highest and biggest capital project to date, but we have bigger ones coming. And of course, our lodging tax is solid. We hit a record year last year, and tourism, of course, is our kind of our export industry here. That's what we do, and so we have plenty of reserves there as well. This slide is now we're starting to talk about our capital projects in specifically. It will be impossible to read this, but let me just kind of share an overview. As you can see down here at the bottom, this is a 6-year plan from 2024 to 2029. And all of these small fonted, bullet pointed items that have lines going down to these colored bars here are capital projects, really, so broken out by year. So the first list here is the 2024 one, then 2025, etc. In total, there's $106 million in costs over these 46 projects. But the next slide shows the aggregate of all these years and programs and projects. So this slide has really integrated the past slide. This is now looking at the 6 years in total. I think what's important here is the color codes that were available on the last slide. The dark green at the bottom are the projects that we actually have city funding for. The next lighter green, it has different our impact fees that we receive as a city that help go to fund projects. We have GFCs and some developer fees as well. But the important thing here, so that's kind of the various dark green to light green at the bottom. Those are kind of hard and soft funds that are available. The most important part of this slide, however, is that, and especially you can see it off here to the right, 61% of the 46 projects that we have identified as being really important to go out and work on in the city to keep the city updated and current relative to our infrastructure. 61% of them do not have funding for them yet. So we are seeking funding for those through grants and low interest loans and whatnot. So while we're very strong as a city with our financial planning, our audits, our reserves, we're really good fiscally responsible attendance of the city budget, but to actually move forward with all the capital projects, we still are looking for a lot of funds to be able to pull off what we believe is needed to keep the city updated. The next several slides address other areas in the city that have needs as well. Some of these slides the projects have been included in the capital improvement plan, others have not. This slide has to do with our parks needs, and again, you can think back on the trends, the national trends. People are really interested in more parks, more trails, more green space, more outdoor recreational activities. Currently, the city of Sequim has 13 parks, amounting to 134, almost 135 acres of green spaces. Our undeveloped parks we have 3 of those, and to develop them, it would be at a cost of about $11 million. And of our existing parks that are developed, just to upgrade those parks, we have cost estimates of up to $12 million. So between our undeveloped parks to bring some development into those and to upgrade our currently existing, the $11 million and the $12 million, total a cost of $23 million just to our parks. On top of our parks, we recently had a consultant who came out and performed an ADA, Americans with Disability Act, compliance report for the city. We needed this to be done because we needed to have this information to show the federal government that we know where we're compliant and where we're not. It now allows us to be able to apply for federal grants. Without having that consultant's report, we would not be eligible to make application for grants. But with the recently completed ADA compliance report, which consisted of all these things that you can see here, mostly the green check boxes. It's mostly streets and sidewalks, not counting 60 miles of sidewalks that don't even exist in the city where they're needed. But the sidewalks that we do have, the report said that we have almost $49 million in total cost to bring our streets and sidewalks up to ADA compliance. And again, that wasn't counting the sidewalks that we don't even have, nor was it counting our facilities or our parks and our ADA compliance with those. So we have park needs, we have sidewalks and street needs. This is another report that we just had done with a consultant group to analyze our streets. We hired Applied Pavement Technologies, and this is a pavement condition index that we receive. On the left side, it actually grades how our streets rank relative to these national definitions, and on the right side, it talks about what it would cost to bring the streets up to the goal of 70%. And in total, to bring all of our streets up to 70 or above grade of PCI, it would be about another $60 million on top of the ADA and on top of the street and on top of the the capital improvement plan. So my last slide here is really talking about some other capital improvement needs that we have. We are trying to get our water and sewer extended down to the east side of the city, down West Sequim Bay, to facilitate the modernization of that end of town to get people off of wells and septic systems. You can see there's a $2 million cost just for the planning and engineering of it, and then another $18 million to actually install the lines there. We're really eager to update our public works shop. This is where our water, sewer, streets crew work out of, where we keep all of our equipment. It was built 30-40 years ago and is leaky roofs and is just outdated completely. That's at a tune of another $35 million. And then, of course, we have our Simdars bypass project is coming. I do want to thank our legislatures for their persistence and support in getting the state to fund a $32 million project out at the Simdars bypass to get on and off ramps going on the west side of the current exchange there, as well as to put an access road at Happy Valley and Palo Alto. So all that said, you can see the huge financial need in everywhere you turn. So we take it very seriously and want the city to be updated and safe as much as possible. We have made some major capital improvement accomplishments in the last year or so with the recent overlay of the Washington Street. This is more out on the west side by the big box, beautiful new overlay there of asphalt. We've, of course, I just mentioned the ADA, completed our ADA transition plan. We've replaced the 7th Avenue water main after multiple failings and water main breaks there. Finally decided it's not worth trying to keep that going with the age and condition of that water main pipe. We have worked really hard on some playground design and got estimates of our parks and our playground equipment. We've recently updated our traffic signals, as I've mentioned, and as well as paid for a water system master plan. So some really good things that have brought some light on things that we have done and that we still need to do, but some really nice accomplishments there. Speaking of our water our master water plan and the consultant's report that we recently got. I guess I won't touch much on this, but it did come up both in the city council retreat, and we have residents ask us a fair amount about what is the status of our water and our storage capacity and whatnot. You'll see here that per the consultant, we have 2 well fields, an infiltration gallery, 3 reservoirs, and whatnot. I guess the key thing to look at here is even with the expanded growth, as you can see under the population title, and as you go out 20 years from 2021 to 2041, you can see our water rights are listed here, and the actual usage and the percentage of the usage per our right. So even with consistent growth in the community, it still appears that we have plenty of water. Of course, it depends on rainfall and whatnot, but we're getting most of this through deep water and our aquifers below our city. So feel very good about our water plan. The next operational goal, and I'll move along a little quicker here, is really listening to our customers. I mentioned that that's our employees, that's our residents, that's our businesses. And so the way you listen to them is you survey them, and then you spend time looking at what they said, and then you put operational or action plans together around what they're telling you or sharing with you. So on the employee side, we have engaged the Gallup vendor. They're kind of the gold standard in municipalities and large private industries. They've got 80 years of experience. They've got over 30 million respondents in their database. They do hundreds of local governments, agencies, and whatnot. We've utilized Gallup as a vendor by surveying our employees for the last 2 years. And it's really kind of an engagement survey. The reason we're interested in how engaged are our employees is because you can see the benefits of an engaged employee here. Employees that feel like you're listening to them and taking care of them become more engaged, and with engagement comes increased loyalty, higher quality of work, increased productivity, higher retention, less absenteeism, fewer accidents and injuries, etc. So really important to pay attention to these things. With our employee engagement survey, we found, and to our amazement and delight, that we had 84% of staff participation. It's anonymous. We don't know who, we don't push it. We don't know who said what, but 84, the very first year we did it, 84% of our staff participated, which was great. It gives us a great pulse on how people feel. We found that 55 were actively engaged. It's really along a continuum. Actively and engaged is a great place to be. We were 22% above the national average, which was at 33%. We've done it 2 years in a row, and we saw a 6% increase on top of our previous survey. We believe that's because the employees saw that we took their information seriously and we listened to them, and then we put action plans in place to address the things that they shared with us that they would like to see or they considered opportunities for improvement. So our engagement mean is about 4.05 out of 5, and we're in the 70th percentile compared to other government agencies nationally. Our second customer is really the residents, and so we engaged the ETC Institute. They're also kind of the national benchmark for surveying residents. They were established in 1982. They're kind of the industry leader, over 4,000 surveys, 700 plus municipalities, over 30 million constituents, et cetera, et cetera. The nice thing about ETC is that they provide both national and regional data to compare with your local municipality. We sent out a survey to every house in our city, I think over 3,700 households. And then we also made QR codes available through all of our social media on our website so that people could respond online if they didn't want to do it with the paper survey that we sent to the house. That the QR code also made it the survey available to people that live around the city, which in our county, who all participate in city activities, drive on our streets, shop in our stores, and enjoy our parks and whatnot. And we really wanted to hear from them as well. So we were told that we only needed 300 survey results submitted to have statistical significance. And yet we ended up with 500 city respondents and another 122 from the county. So what did the surveys say? Overall, the city of Sequim scored at 90% overall quality of life satisfaction. Really a very positive perception of being a resident in the city of Sequim. 41 out of the 52 areas that were rated by our residents, so 80%, we were above the U.S. average. You can see some other things that some other data metrics here, 38% above the U.S. average in customer service satisfaction and in resident ranking. So this slide might be difficult to read some of the lines and the details in the data, but as long as you pay attention to kind of the colors, I think that would be probably good enough. The dark blue is very satisfied, the lighter blue is satisfied, and the gray is more neutral relative to their satisfaction. But any of those are positive comments. The dissatisfied are the kind of the red or the pink on the far right. But as you can see here, the very top line is overall quality of life in Sequim. The satisfaction is at 98%. The next question was Sequim as a place to live. Only 3% were dissatisfied, so 97% were satisfied. Sequim as a place to retire, again, 96% satisfied. Overall feeling of safety is the next line item, and it was, I think, at 85% for that. So amazing results, and you can just read on down the list here. But we were told by the ETC consultant, who's a principal, been with the company 40 years, that he has hardly ever seen results this high. So very, very pleased with our residents and their satisfaction with the city. Here we have the next slide, and this is another slice at the data. But this shows comparables to the U.S. Overall, the national averages, and the light blue is the Northwest regional averages. The dark blue is Sequim data. So I'll just read some of the top line items here. What is your satisfaction with the city parks, trails, and open space? 97%, whereas the average across the nation with their own different cities' satisfaction is at 49%, and in the Northwest regional comparisons is at 48%. The next important or next item would be how do they feel about the city buildings and facilities? 80% are satisfied and happy with that, compared to national averages of 56% and regional averages of 57%, and we're at 80 or 79%. And so it goes. One I'm very proud of is the very next item, which is customer service from city employees. The satisfaction from our residents was at 77% with our employees' interactions with residents and customer service attitudes and behaviors, whereas nationally the average is at 39% and regionally it's at 38%, and again Sequim is at 77%. So you can just see, I could just keep reading, but we're looking for the dark blue and how far above the national and regional averages. Sequim residents rated our services. So those were all the things that we rated high in. You're probably thinking, well, what did you not rate high in? And we have a few of those as well, which is broken out on this slide. Again, the city is in the dark blue. So this has to do with city enforcement of sign regulations. A lot of things having to do with enforcement of code and regulations. So again, we were below the national and regional average relative to sign regulations and enforcement. The city residents are concerned about how the city is planning for growth. We were at 24%. Regionally, it was at 28%, and nationally, there's a 39% concern about that, or average. The next item that we can see that we need to spend time in addressing is enforcement on mowing, trimming, grass, weeds on private property. Again, the city of Sequim, we were at 20% on that, with much higher, almost 50 and 46% regional and national averages. So certainly something we need to listen to and respond to. And the last item here was the same thing, enforcement and cleanup of debris on private. So there's a real concern about code enforcement and trying to beautify our city, and also to ensure that we're planning properly for the growth that is coming to Sequim. So the other important item to point out with this survey with ETC, the vendor ETC, was not only did we ask questions about how did we rank on each of these municipal services and on so many various topics and areas, but we were able to say not only how we rank, but how important is it to you as a resident, is this topic? How important is this topic to you? And so here's the top 5 areas that residents would call their priorities, or their when asked how important it is, these are the top things. Number 1 is to regulate development and to make sure that we're controlling growth in a logical and smart way there. They were interested in and concerned about traffic flow and congestion, which, as you know, we've recently purchased sophisticated software to help us in that area. They were concerned about the city streets and sidewalks and the maintenance of that. That's getting back to our CIP plan and trying to address all of the $106 million that I outlined earlier in that. Number 4 is enforcing code in our ordinances. And then they really, although police protection ranked really high, it's also equally important to our residents. So it's not like it's something that needs to be fixed. We just need to maintain that going forward. Due to the residents' input on their number 1 importance was to make sure that we were paying attention and approaching our growth in a smart way. The timing could not have been perfect, and we actually planned for this to survey the residents before. So earlier in the year, we did the survey at the end of last year, starting in December and in November, December. And so because we knew we were starting our comprehensive plan in early 2024, and we wanted to hear from the residents and make sure that their information was rolled forward into our comprehensive plan. So what is a comprehensive plan? It's required every 10 years. It's a 20-year plan. We started early in January. It's about a year and a half, 18 months start to end process. Every city or municipality goes through it. They typically hire subject matter experts or consultants that are kind of pure play in this space. This is all they do. So they know how to really help guide a municipality through their planning. There are lots. The nice thing about the comprehensive plan is there is a lot of kind of on-ramps to public participation in the planning process. And so you'll be seeing community workshops, open houses, they call them studios as well. A lot of opportunities for the residents to come and share more details that expand on their comments in the survey that we just did, and the data I just showed you relative to their concerns over growth and whatnot. So all that, it's a great time for residents to continue to provide the city with information so that we can listen to that and make sure that we're implementing action around that. The last 5D here is a site on our website that will talk a lot about the comprehensive plan and share a lot of other details regarding the comp plan is located there. Moving quickly through our 23-24 operational goals, number 4 was to stabilize the workforce. Again, of course, the last 2 years have been hectic with the Great Resignation and kind of coming out of COVID. You'll see some data related to all the work we've been doing to do exactly that, stabilize our workforce. In the last year, we've replaced our Public Works Director. First, the very first one was back when I first started in 2021, and then we were able to recruit an internal candidate with Sarah, who now is retiring, and we just recruited another amazing Public Works Director in Paul. We also had a community development director that we had to recruit for, and we've spent some time and had a couple of those as well. 20 employees out of our 94 employees are new, and so we've had to, that's due to retirement as well as to the Great Resignation and whatnot. So we've got really great, very engaged employees on our bus. And you can see that we're working hard on our succession planning. We've had 6 key hires overlap with replacements here, and you can see our turnover rate is now on a downward trend and stabilizing. Just in our police department alone, the changes that have happened in the last year or so include the following, right? A brand new police chief, a deputy police chief, 3 patrol sergeants, a detective sergeant, administrative sergeant, like on it goes, almost everything. And of course, it is a bit of a domino effect down there. As certain people move up or retire, then it opens up other opportunities. We've got about 22 officers in our police department, and so there is a rippling effect. But you can see the significance of the changes and our need to stabilize the workforce across the city, and including in our police department. So a few of accomplishments relative to stabilizing workforce are seen in this slide here. We've seen a 14% increase in retention of our employees in the last 2 years. Our recruitment efforts that we've really been very innovative in our recruitment and posting in places that historically have not been done. Whereas a year or 2 ago, we were getting 1 or 2 applicants for our open positions. So we've seen an 18% increase in applications per posting. We've put a lot of time into a wellness program for our employees, and because we have, we've seen a decrease in the cost of our premiums. And you'll see that due to our safety program and some of the things we've done with our risk program. But these are great initiatives that our HR department has taken on and accomplished in the last year or 2. Besides wellness and safety programs, we've paid a lot of attention to protecting our employees, doing a lot of education to try to decrease any employee injuries and whatnot. Here's data that shows kind of what we've been accomplishing in that. You can see the 4 years here, kind of looking at the green, which are the current losses over the last couple of years from 21, 22, and 23. Current losses, of course, we're just 4 months into it, are below 2,000, but we've steadily brought those increases down. Matter of fact, in 2023, I guess we had a record low experience rating. So if you're at 1, you're at the average for kind of the risk pool that you're in, and we were below that. And because we're below that, then our premiums were significantly less this year. They can tell that we're implementing a lot of um, pre-prevention and preventative steps for our employees and whatnot, and so our premiums went down both for the city and as reflected on individual employee paychecks. Pleased to kind of report that additional accomplishments in stabilizing the workforce in our HR department. We've recently completed a very, very comprehensive compensation analysis, hired a vendor from the Midwest that looked over things, kind of policies, our whole structure. We went from six different bands to 12. We looked at our range for our compensation for each of those new 12 bands, et cetera, and have comps from like cities and all that. So really happy with the new information that we have for our employees and for the city. We have created action plans around our employee survey, which I talked about before. We mentioned this wellness, safety, and risk committees that we've put in place. We just got awarded a Well City award from the Association of Washington Cities, etc. Really happy with the software that we've implemented in our HR department as well that allows for an employee portal that makes it much more user-friendly for our employees to get anything from their copies of their paychecks to making changes to their dependents and other such HR matters. The final operational goal is really process improvement, which we continue to keep our eye on. We're asking the question constantly, are we doing this? Is there a better, faster, smarter, less expensive way of doing things? And so the next slide shows some of the accomplishments we've made in our continuing process improvement planning. As mentioned before, we're looking really closely at our IT and our technology department and policies, use of AI, artificial intelligence. We've created a task force and created policies that kind of mirror the state and some other states and federal guidelines on use of that so that we're doing it properly and safely. We have created quarterly development meetings or quarterly meetings with the developer community, which is our builders and developers and whatnot, to update them on everything that we're trying to do, listening to them and trying to accommodate their interests and needs for the city to respond to them. We've brought on a fleet coordinator and an asset manager that uses Cartograph. I mentioned that earlier, but our fleet had nobody really in charge of it before the last 2 years, and so that's our biggest, one of our largest asset classes. We're updating our municipal code. Our police department recently went through an accreditation with the Washington Association of Sheriffs and Police Chiefs, and we were recognized with accommodation for our PD and all that they're doing and have in place. And our police department continues to work with community groups to assist those in need with the proper resources. So very, very happy with the things that we're trying to identify relative to process improvement across the city. One of the last areas that process improvement that we put in place is a risk management committee to look at our risk. We're in a risk pool. They put similar cities together based on the number of employees and the hours worked and whatnot. So we're in I think it's group 2. Here's the group information. The most probably important thing is to look at these averages. So even though there's 27 members in that group, what's the average of that group? And you can see the costs are about 1.1 million with about 30 claims. And if you jump over here to Sequim, you can see our actual costs are only $282,000 versus the average of the other 26 in the group at 1.1 million. And the average of the other cities in the group are about 30 claims, and we're at 26. They expected us to be at 33, and we're significantly below that. They expected our claims to be 1.2, and we're only almost $300,000 or 282. So very, very pleased with, again, our process improvement in that area. So finally, getting to the end of this presentation, the state of the city, have some quick information or data by the numbers. Our first one is we have 7 departments, which we've already shared with you, about 93, 94 employees. 40% are in public works. We have another 30% in police, and we have an annual budget of about $44 million. More specific data or information around our development and an overview of that. We have last year we produced 190 residential building permits. We had 47 commercial building permits, so things are definitely popular and growing here. We currently have 623 housing units in process. And that website, all of this information is online. You can see where these developments are going and the information tied to those by individual plots and whatnot at an annual valuation of $18 million in new growth. And finally, we have almost 200 updated Sequim codes. A lot of the codes in the city were outdated or still are outdated. We're trying to catch all of them up to the current standards. You'll mention this already, that our risk pool versus actual, we've decreased costs 23% compared to expected costs. We've had a decline in reportable crimes since 2018 of 25%, along with arrests have declined along the same trend lines. So very proud of some key data by the number. But I need to end this State of the City by absolutely thanking and addressing our community partners. Sequim is a very small community geographically. Most people that work in Sequim or identify Sequim as the town that they live in, many are actually from the county. We collaborate very closely with all of our community partners, including the county and the 2 port cities on both sides of us, east and west, Port Angeles and Townsend. But our state legislators have been very supportive and helped us in purchasing parks and in helping us with the SIMDAR exchange. I meet regularly with the county commissioners, with the Economic Development Council, Fire District 3 leadership, the school district, and with Reagan as the new superintendent there, et cetera, et cetera. You can see the tribe, the Chamber of Commerce, local media work very closely with Aaron at Gazette and whatnot. Really appreciate all the work being done at the Boys and Girls Club and the YMCA as well as OMC. So we just look at ourselves as a very collaborative community and look forward to working with all of these really important entities. And with that, we finally conclude this year's State of the City. I will certainly be interested and willing to entertain questions. There's my contact information. Probably email's the best, but you can try certainly the phone as well. So thank you for listening. I apologize, it's a little long. I'm not used to putting an audio overlay on top of slides, so it's taken some learning here. I'll get better with it each year. So thank you again for listening. Look forward to working with you as we go forward. Bye-bye.